are you doing? Today we're going to talk about track 3 on Tundra, which is called Stillness. Now, I know what you're thinking. Post-rock with vocals. Oh no! Don't care. So I'm not sure as a newcomer to this genre if this is a controversial topic or not. I don't think it is, but it might be slightly. From what I understand, a lot of people prefer their post-rock to have no vocals. I think it can sound pretty cool sometimes. If you don't already know, the reason I'm talking about this is because this song, Stillness, features one of my best friends, Erin Roos, on vocals, and her voice is fucking incredible. So we have this amazing, beautiful friendship from across the world, and I couldn't imagine this song with anyone else's voice or character on it because it falls so in line with stuff that me and Erin talk about all the time. It feels very much like a meditation to me, and that is exactly what I wanted. If you're following the story arc of the record, the tracks beforehand are very traumatic and emotionally heavy, and this track sort of represents a happy place, a meditative state, somewhere you go where it's just you and the voice inside your head, kind of just telling you everything's going to be okay and being there for you. Now, both for me and Erin, this is something we've both never done before, but we were like, let's just try some shit. I definitely knew that I wanted some sort of spoken word aspect on this record. I know I wanted one very direct one, kind of talking to myself when I'm in those really bad periods. So I thought that this song would be exactly what I wanted to hear after something really stressful and traumatic and emotionally heavy. My hope in putting it on the album was that it's something that's also comforting and healing to the listener. So this song is kind of like a glimmer of hope. It's not true acceptance, it's not true healing, but it's kind of saying that healing is possible. If that makes any sort of sense. I thought this was the perfect kind of song to make it more acoustic focused, sort of like an electronica ambient type of beat. There's a lot of vocal layering in this song. I felt that, if we're going to have vocals, might as well make it really, really good. So jumping into it, again, I have everything grouped at the top of the session. I separated music and vocals. Again, it's just so that the vocals could stick out where I wanted them to. Now, the actual beat of this song, it evolves and more layers get added as the song progresses, but it starts out very simple. I'm going to go over textures first, actually, because that is the most important part of this song. So I've got about 3 textures here, I believe. These are all guitar rig, the little reflector reverb, turned up to XXL, decay, super cranked, wet, ambient, atmospheric. Just the 7th chord. C sharp major is one of my favorite keys, I think. So I remember really having a rough time one morning about a year ago. I just loaded up the texture first to start this session. I just was messing around with some things that sounded cool. I liked this key. I basically got a lot of samples together with the intention of like moving, cutting, replacing, resampling, all this fun shit. This is one texture. This is strumming on a deeper string. Now what I'm basically doing here is just finger, like kind of hybrid picking almost, like, or actually no, I think it's mostly just fingers with a lot of gain on it. No specific time, just no time signature, just vibes. I didn't have a beat in mind until I had the textures that I wanted first. There's another layer here. This is just like random little ins and outs of melodies and parts of the key that I liked. This ended up working out perfectly. It's the exact ear candy that I wanted for this song because I didn't want it to just be textures. I wanted like a bit more stuff swooping in and out, changing panning, volume, all that fun stuff. And all the notes that I was playing with the long reverb decays, I reversed for this layer. Now if I actually make a new track, I'll reverse this, and I'll show you what it sounded like normal. The reason it's reversing into itself is because I took the reversed reverb and processed it with more reverb. So just super textury. And kind of pasted them so they had some sort of structure once the beat kicked in, but here's all the textures by themselves. And on the group, I have an imager just to spread it, get it out of the center, because the main stuff goes in the center. Now, I definitely remember having this first and realizing, like, okay, I can move forward here. And with this key in mind, I started playing a few things. I don't remember if the drums came first or the guitar first, but we're going to go to drums because it's at the top of the session. So I knew I wanted the first part of this song to be the spoken word part, and I wanted the back half to have the singing once kind of the message was delivered, and the singing would kind of wind the song down. Having this beat kick in after the certain phrases were spoken, I was so stoked about that, but I liked kind of teasing the beat before it all kicked in. So just have this kick sample I think it's from Cashmere. The hi-hats have Redux on them from Ableton. Again, didn't want them to sound so crisp. This is all the drums are in the beginning. And then this snare sample comes in towards the end. This is the same snare sample from Tough Conversations, actually. Just took it. I really liked it. I liked how it got bit crushed a bit, so. I wanted to have this sort of disjointed beat where it didn't have the same exact kind of copy-paste feel to it. As you can hear, those louder snares only happen like every other bar. Yeah, I wanted this beat to kind of feel stitched together and a little bit stuttery. A little bit. Not as much as other stuff, but here's just another downlifter kind of crash sound. Filtered some stuff out of the lows. Didn't want it to muddy up. That's at the end of the song. Kind of just giving a bit more of a push. That's really it in terms of drums. These are just turned up fairly loud. I don't have too many layers. Should have it compressed again. Light compression. At least with the Ableton compressor, because it's not my favorite. Has its moments, but yeah. That's it for drums, people. So I use a lot of like Foley sounds in this song because I don't know, the more I start listening to modern like IDM type of productions, a lot of lo-fi stuff too nowadays has this type of like background noise sort of servicing the beat. I got to use the Goodhertz Lossy plugin. Goodhertz makes some absolutely crazy cool plugins. I haven't gotten to use all of them as much as I want, but they're super CPU intensive, but they just sound great. I used the Pan one a lot on, I think I already used it on a Vista song or something back in the day. I have it set to the bad live streaming preset. What this plugin does, if you aren't familiar with it, just kind of like literally degrades the like bits per second of a sound. So this is it without it. Lots of high quality timbres in there, but I just made it sound like it's running through a cell phone in fucking 2004. It sucks. For some reason, that seemed to be really working for the song. So yeah, the beat with that little background noise. And then like pasting it every time, so it's kind of the same thing. Had sort of a beat to it. Kind of had a loose lo-fi feel. Also, there's another kind of bigger kick noise. And there's a sub drop actually, which is more of an FX kind of thing, not really a drums kind of thing. Yeah, that's all that is. So we got voices, and these are all from Vengeance Samples packs. I took stuff, did the Lossy plugin again. Some compressing and some bit reduction. Actually ended up automating this a good amount, like especially for this one drop. You can hear it just, that kind of acted as like a uplifter. Pretty cool. Something I've never really done before. For this part, kind of leading into the beat dropping.
Oh, yes.
Take
The
Aaron's vocals out.
intensity.
I wanted just little voices clamoring in the background, representing like corny, but representing like the noise in your head and just the one voice that kind of cuts through all of the noise. Something that we don't think about a lot every day. I wanted people to kind of realize the noise that goes on in their head. Sometimes it could be really good and it could be used as a tool to solve problems and get things done. But sometimes it could also just be background noise that you don't need that kind of clutters up life. So that's my sort of take on this. But I also wanted it to sort of sound inspirational. So I have a couple of like, yeah, that one I have in there, I Surrender. I thought it was cool. I heard it while scrolling through the sample pack and I just thought it fit, you know? It's hard to explain why it fits, but it just fits. So I have it kind of coming in, coming out, have it sort of repeating itself, and then when the song kind of kicks in more, I have it sampled a bit differently. Have it copied and pasted, a bit glitchy. Have it pitched down there. Pitch down even more. This kind of stuff that you can only really hear with headphones. So I don't know. I like making stuff for that kind of listener. So that's why I say, like, please listen to this record with headphones on. It's kind of a different experience. Lots of trial and error, seeing where things fit the best. And here is some like vinyl kind of samples that I used as Foley and percussion. So that's actually in time. I'll play with the click. That ended up just being milky. I don't know how else to describe it. It ended up just filling those spaces and being that right amount of ear candy. Because when you think about it, this song isn't too many layers, but all of them count and all of them are brought up to be very filling. Right when your ear is like, oh, there's nothing going on here, then there's something going on there. So I'll put that kick in there. And I thought that ended up being really, really cool. It's kind of used now as a percussive element. Yeah, little stuff like that kind of helps a beat drop a lot nicer. Now on to the acoustic guitars. I went with a very non-linear approach with this song. So I kind of loop recorded over this beat with the textures that I liked and went through different iterations of the chords, trying to go to different notes in the key. So I have these grouped because they're panned left and right. I have them frozen, and then I put all the plugins in the group. So the chain's still in here for these. This is a Nylon Guitar. I couldn't tell you who made it, but I bought it in Portugal when I went because a lot of my family's from Portugal. When I went in 2015, I bought that guitar and brought it home with me, and it sounded perfect for this song. I think a steel stringed acoustic would have been a bit too bright for this song. I wanted something darker. So as the song goes more, I've kind of copied and pasted and figured out which chord progressions fit best, you know, with what Aaron was saying. Also, if you look at the if you look at my markers, I very much went out about this song non-linearly because I just was like, oh, there should be more talking here. There should be something else instrumentally here. There needs to be electric guitar here. Oh, we need to have a sub bass here. Process this part more. This song was very much a barren landscape, and I had to slowly populate it with stuff. So it's going, it's looping. Eventually, I'm like, this needs a harmony. And the harmony, I didn't double track or anything. It's basically just right in the center. The chain for the acoustic is the same between the harmony and the rhythm. Filtered out lows that I don't need. Filtered out like a tiny bit of highs. Or just basically so nothing past 20K kind of gets in there. And since I recorded these acoustic guitars with my ML1 from Slate, I got to mod the microphone to make it whatever I wanted. So I chose their version of a Sony C800G, which is a $10,000 microphone. And you could buy a car or you could buy this microphone. I chose the digital modded version of this microphone. But yeah, I have it pretty up there in terms of the intensity. And then I have the Monster processing this a decent amount. It's getting pretty squashed because I had a fairly quiet room at the time and I could just get away with recording this and cranking it in terms of compression. I have the revival unit in here adding a bit of highs and some of the body back in. Next up, this is probably the next EQ in this chain I didn't really use too much, but I have it there in case I wanted to tweak some stuff. However, this one I did use, like I always do. I added in some of the 12K frequencies, a good amount. I don't know if these are dB measurements, like if this is 5 dB over here. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Let's say this is about 4 to 5 dB of 12K boost. And then I took out some of the 100 hertz stuff because acoustic guitars can get a bit boxy around there. And the chain on the lead is the exact same. There's a bit of a delay on it actually, which is in my sends. Felt like this carried things along really nicely. I liked very much how this part is notes, notes, bit of a breath, notes, notes, bit of a breath. I'm sort of noticing that that's kind of a thematic thing for Secret Gardens, or at least for this record. And I don't know why, but it felt right. So moving on, we go to the electric guitar, which I didn't want it to be too meow, but I got a nice dialed in tone with guitar rig. Something really smooth on the neck pickup on my Talman. Nothing too long or drawn out because the textures are already filling in that kind of long drawn out space. This melody came to me after everything was kind of done and I was like, oh, that's pretty good. Let's put it in there. I think the beginning of it needed a bit of spruce in terms of when the beat popped in, so I have it throwing into this reverb and then coming down. This with the acoustic guitar. I want it to be groovy but delicate. Very thin line. Then harmony. I threw the harmony off to the left because there was vocals here or around here, and I didn't want everything to be so centered. At this point, I didn't want the same thing to happen again, so I was like, let's just go Mr. Producer electronica guy and take the part, resample it, and splice it up. So yeah, that was just a lot of trial and error. I changed the pitch of a lot of the sounds. Just I wanted it to sound like the same melody, but different, if that makes sense. And on these splices, it's just some gain, some EQ, and some imaging, because I already had the tone fairly processed because I resampled it from the tone above over here. And then under that, once those were done, I was like, okay, it needs another thing, and that's where this lead with like a dotted eighth delay came in. So this is kind of coming in as the next part swells in. I wanted to just kind of hang out on one note here and then kind of evolve slowly more into one part. It sounded perfect for this because I wanted the song to open up here a lot. And this definitely helped open things up. Before Aaron sent me the vocals, this was kind of the focal point of the mix. This was like right in the center, brought up a lot. And if I release the instrumental version of this song, I'll probably remix it a little bit, tweak some stuff. This is kind of your chorus lead now. And then it kind of changes as the part changes too, because I didn't want it to stay too stale. The song's just about slow addition, and it turned out beautiful. At the end, we have some violins coming in here. Again, Spitfire, samples, the ensemble palette. Got them nice and faded in terms of volume. Added more notes. Higher octaves. Goes nice with the guitar. I just wanted that little last thing to give you the goosebumps, you know? Just give you that impression. Fade out slowly, slowly, slowly. I have a library in Kontakt that I love to use. I don't use it with this project too much because it doesn't require too much synth bass, but this song required some synth bass. Just wanted like a kind of a basic sine wave with like a bit more saturation, distortion to it. Just going with the guitars and those chords. I felt that it was too thin when I was done with the mix, so I actually added this in like really close to the mix's end. Just so it has a nice like. This is mainly just for sub frequencies, this mix. It isn't really meant to take up space from the acoustic guitars. And that's the instrumental for this song. A lot of other stuff and other atmospheric layers you hear are via vocals. I have some sidechain compression on this whole instrumental mix from different parts. Yeah, I have one sidechain for the talking, and I have one sidechain for the singing. Just so that the mix kind of ducks back a little bit and you can have more clarity in what Aaron is saying. So obviously, It's pretty poignant to hear. I won't go through everything she says, but I'll just show you kind of how it sounds on its own. Starting out this group, we have the ooh kind of atmospheric sounds that I put a lot of reverb on. I actually ended up using the virtual mix rack and using some of the mic mod stuff. Even though this wasn't tracked with an ML1, I was kind of able to change some of the tonal character of the microphone Aaron recorded with. And I was able to kind of dial in something that sounded nice. After some trial and error. Obviously it was a lot harder because the microphone wasn't meant to, or the software wasn't designed to mod that microphone. So me and Aaron actually spent a lot of time over Zoom getting these right, figuring out which notes to go where. She was super particular about it, and I love that because, like, you got to be in love with your art. You got to be particular about your art. You got to have it the way you want it. So we dialed in these volumes a lot, panning. To talk more about this process and how we got these vocals to string together from remote across different sides of the world, I wanted a lot of like stuff to sample from her. So it started out with her listening to the instrumental beat and just singing a note or two so that I could kind of sample it, put it wherever, splice it up. Just total non-linear approach to this whole song, including the vocals. The only thing I had set in stone was the far away, that kind of chorus part. But everything else was just all trial and error. She gave me different notes of the scale, different combination, she just sung really whatever came to her mind, and she's so good at that. So I got a bit more creative with it after I kind of went through everything she sent me, started pitching down stuff, changing formats of stuff just to make it more vibey and just sink you in deeper. That was the goal there. If you're going to listen to any song on this record with headphones, I would say this is the number one song to listen to it with because there's a lot of ear candy. There's just so much stuff like this. I think you can hear it best with headphones. I have this set to a pretty long decay time. I reversed stuff. I just tried all sorts of tricks on these vocals to switch it up, but also make it just like perfectly immersive. I ended up using that sample a lot because I thought it fit so well over the chord progression. Yeah, and the guitars too. Ooh, I can't tell you the goosebumps that came onto my arm and my whole body when I first heard that. It just fit like puzzle pieces, dude. I was just like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted. So shout out to Aaron again for being so talented and reading my mind. Yeah, I played around for a long time with this song about sped up stuff too, even. There's a lot of this in this song. You'll probably be able to hear it the most clearly with headphones. So we'll just skip to the talking really quick because that's what comes first in the song.
Colliding, cascading down.
So obviously you can hear where the talking is, what happens. I played around with a lot of automation for the talking for this. So I automate reverb in and out. I automate dry and wet. I got that like robotic kind of sound where you're safe here, you're with me now, that stuff.
Do you remember the last time we spoke? But hey, there is nothing that you can't survive, right? You're safe here. You're with me now.
Yeah, that's playing around with the type of reverb and the early reflections of the reverb.
You're with me now.
Kind of makes it sound like she's a robot or like an angel speaking to you from above. I really, really wanted that tone, and I'm glad I was able to find it out. Because I never actually messed around with stuff like that before, prior to the song.
You're safe here. You're with me now.
And we had to go back and redo lines. She literally named this file, "I never want to record these lines ever again." Because some stuff was messed up. There was some background noise. We took a while, but we got it right. So in terms of the talking, I'm trying to see if I pulled out any other tricks. More stuff like that. That's pitched down and format changed.
It's heavy. It's hard to see.
Yeah, that's kind of just backing up that phrase.
It's heavy.
It's hard to see.
I don't know if I mentioned that. So I kind of had a pretty narrowed down grouping of phrases I wanted to say to represent the character of your inner self, kind of giving you a monologue of tenderness and love and care, something that I feel like we should all give ourselves when we're down. It's healthy to have a loving relationship with yourself, and I kind of wanted to paint that picture with what Erin was saying, or what I was going to have Erin to say. So I gave her most of these phrases, but I told her, like, please feel free to take this topic and the way I'm speaking about this and use your imagination and say other stuff. And she's really good at stuff like that. So she gave me a couple things that I had no intention of saying, but they were so great. Like the whole bit about driving in the rain and going under a bridge. I said none of that. I wouldn't have even thought of that, but Erin just came back and hit me with some fire, and I just heard it and I was like, yes, thank you. So that was such a cool thing.
But then you go under a bridge.
Yep.
And for a split second, you're reminded once again that there is a life that exists without rain.
Yeah, and I had to automate the fuck out of this in terms of delays, throwing it to delays.
You can come to me whenever you need.
Just wanted things to just sound like you're in another world for a minute. So there's a lot of trial and error for this song. It took the longest to mix. This was the last song I mixed for this record. Okay, so now that I've talked about the talking a good amount, probably didn't even explain everything about it. Oh, actually, if you're watching this far into the video, I want to show you there's definitely a very hidden layer of talking that ends, and I hope you can hear it. It's at literally the end of the song.
One way or another, you have to let it all go. Try to remember this.
And then the part at the end is the representation of you waking up from this coma-like state you're in to kind of go and face real life and deal with the reality of it all. So moving on to singing, there is a lot of oohs and ahs, and this is the few bits of singing in the beginning, which I have this little bit kind of foreshadowing the singing that's about to come in.
Hold me down and let me breathe again.
A lot of different sends on this, different parts. I have it automated in terms of panning. Have the send automated because this also includes other parts of the songs, I believe. This might look like a total clusterfuck, and that's because it is. I was sent some new stems and just trial and error to get it right. So I wanted to foreshadow the singing with a bit of riffing and this one sample. The first phrase is far away, so I kind of, in that note, I took it and just like put it through a delay and like let it ring, 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 and fade in. That really helps the song like breathe into a new movement, if that makes sense. I had to print most to all these vocals because they're very CPU intensive and they had a bunch of plugins on them. This has a fair amount of reverb and delay on it for sure. I had to try a couple different takes of her singing, but this is mainly how it is. And I had to mess around with a few different EQ settings because she sent me a couple different stems and I had to make them match.
Away from summer's day, the cold decay. It's not worth fighting what will be a history. Eventually, we're still rewriting. Far away from summer's day, the cold decay. It's not worth fighting.
And if you made it this far into the video, I actually am singing underneath this. Just to harmonize with her and give more of a bottom end of it.
Far away from summer's day, the cold decay. It's not worth fighting what will be a history. Eventually, we're still rewriting.
And then the second time, there's a bit more of a raspier take that she gave me, and I put some harmonies over it. I took the vocal stem and I decided to try this and run it through Melodyne and just like make harmonies. Never really did that before, but it turned out pretty good.
Away from summer's day, the cold
They sound kind of weird on their own, but I think they ended up pretty good in the whole mix of stuff.
The cold decay, it's not worth fighting what will be our history. Eventually, we're still rewriting. We're still rewriting. We're still rewriting. We're still rewriting.
And the Nothing Nowhere bit at the end, Erin totally improvised that. I thought it fit super well. The melody was great. Have it kind of going through, it's filtered. It's got waves tune on it just to touch up some stuff. And it's running through CLA effects, which is pretty good with like affected vocals and telephone kind of filter stuff. And
it means lights if you're not there. So pull me under, hold me down and let me breathe again.
I loved the way she sang that. Had to put that in there. So playing the vocals on their own at this part, like the end of the song, the singing part is just so cool. So moving on to the final part of this video, the sends. There's a lot because when I tend to do songs with vocals, I want certain types of reverbs here, certain types of delay throws here. So the first send, I have kind of a short H reverb sound, compressed it just to get it to actually show up in the mix. Second send I have is, I use this a lot, H delay. I have it filtered, so it's kind of a mids delay. The feedback's up. I usually have it ping-ponging, but it's not. Quarter note, I don't like the analog stuff. Compressed it, this is another kind of delay, except it's not a quarter note, it's an eighth note. So it's pretty much the same thing, just I wanted options. Oh, and we got a third delay, baby. This is a 16th note delay, and this one is ping-ponging. Oh, and the eighth note is ping-ponging as well. Feedback's up, same kind of thing. I just needed different types of delays for different kinds of throws because the talking and the singing made it like crazy. And we got a fourth delay. Same kind of thing. I just needed weird stuff to throw on guitars and weird stuff to throw on bass. This delay is actually sidechained to the singing. So the purpose of the singing delay having a sidechain on it is the dry signal of the actual singing part. I didn't want the delay to peek through when the singing was happening, so I have it compressed so that whenever the singing is actually happening, the delay is not like overshadowing it, and then when the singing's done, the delay creeps back in. And then singing reverb, I wanted to try something a little different here, just to have a different tonal character. And so I went with IR1, which is a pretty decent reverb. They have a good plate reverb sound, which H reverb sometimes I can't really find a good plate sound. And I just have a bus of spreading, which similar to Tough Conversations or other songs on this record, it's a millisecond delay, 34 milliseconds, ping-ponged. No filtering on it or anything like that. And the master chain, like is the C6, typical stuff. I have this boosted a bit because I think this is where the kick is. Everything else, I got a bit more crispness out of stuff from about 6K and up. Same matching EQ as everything else. Same ozone as everything else mostly. Yeah, just some imaging. Same settings as the other song. And on this song, I did put an L2 just because the whole mix was overall low because I didn't have to deal with the problem of a real drum set. Limiting a little bit, a little under 3 dB out, just so that it had more of a starting point for when I sent it to get mastered. And yeah, that's Stillness. A lot went into this song and a lot went into this record. So if you haven't listened to it, please check it out. And I hope you guys have been enjoying Tundra. And thank you so much for having an open ear to my stuff. Love y'all. I will catch you later.